Ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you, this show has been one of the most exciting for me because I get to meet all kinds of exciting business owners. But how often do we end up in a situation where we literally are in a position, and this happened to me recently. I'll give you my story here a little bit, but the whole path we have to take to buy something that we all ultimately very much need. Not everybody. I mean, you go to big cities, sometimes you can use public transportation a little bit. Not such a viable option here in St. Louis, a little bit, but I don't know if you can live that way. There's people who do.
Right.
But I'd say probably 80%, 90%, maybe 95%.
Yeah, we're not Chicago.
We're not Chicago. You have to have one of these things called an automobile.
Yeah.
A short slang for that, is that slang? But they call it a car.
Car, automobile,
right?
You know,
Where'd that
come? But yeah, and it's a cost. It's an expense. You're not going to make any money on it. When you sell it, you're going to lose money. You know, but in America, we look at driving way different than most other countries. You know, it's an expression of who we are for a lot of people, and they really get excited about it, and they're willing to spend a lot of money on it sometimes. You know.
So we got the bright idea to call around to a couple just randomly and see if we could get a car expert, car owner of a local lot, because we all know the big names. Love those guys. They do a lot of work. They do a lot for the community. I know some of them, the big guys, personally. I've done some charity work with some of those guys, and they're wonderful stuff. But there's also a few ways to go about this, and typically, I'll share a little of my philosophy about buying a car, and that is, and I've done it both ways. I've bought multiple new cars. But this last time, after doing all of them, you know, digging in more, because I'm at this age, you get to the point in life you're like, I need to be very sensitive with every penny I spend.
Right.
Because we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
my buddy said, Carter, you're over the hill. You're coming down the hill now.
Right.
And so how long do you want to work, and et cetera. So as I look at this and I go, hey, we need to do the best investment we can on something we're going to spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on.
Well, yeah,
and do this right. So I decided, and I'll tell you my story about this, we'll talk about this a little bit too, but after having a conversation, Tom and I here today in this particular recording have had a 2.5 hour, 2 hour, 15-minute pregame prep. And normally it's 10 or 15 minutes.
Right.
This time I had forgotten to send Tom my questions and say, here's what I'm going to ask you. So I said, we'll spend a little extra time to go over that. But I also said there's a lot more different questions I wanted to ask, because how many people have been through the situation where they are trying to make a purchase of a car and helping their kids, their daughter, son. It is a stressful situation.
And people sometimes that tell me they'd rather go to the dentist and get a root canal than go buy a car, used or new.
Yeah, but the best value, because they say when you drive a new car off the lot, it loses X amount. That's kind of, I'm not dogging the new guys. I bought a number, and there's a benefit to having a car like that. You know you're going to lose that.
Nothing like a new car smell, but there's nothing like the depreciation of a new car. It's an expensive smell.
Yeah, and that's so much the case. So how do you end up where now you're going, I don't want to lose that kind of value right out of the gate. And I'm willing to take a chance a little bit to get a car that will be used, but not. And so we've talked about the whole used car operation. That's what you do. Do you ever get new cars?
No, I don't do anything with new cars.
Yeah, and that's hard to do unless you got to be part of it.
Yeah, most of my cars I get are older. I mean, my price range is under $10,000. It's not an easy niche, but when you get up to $15,000, $20,000, people will tend to want to be with a new car dealership or a larger dealership that has a service facility, what have you, and they're more picky, you know. So I'm trying to. And the people that buy $10,000 under cars usually turn them over fairly quickly, and it's and so people are a little bit on their horse when they come in. They don't know if they could trust you, but there's a good value out there. You know, I sold a Lexus a couple weeks ago. It was an RS 350, had 180,000 miles on it, but it was in great shape. That car is probably a $300,000 car, 300,000 mile car. Sorry.
Okay.
And it was bought for a young lady. She's 20 years old. It's a perfect. You got a really high end car for a cheap price. You get a Lexus for $6,000. It's a pretty good deal.
Right.
You know?
Well, so there's so much value. I think so. That's why I made the decision. I said I'm going to buy a used car. I'm not going to. I went for something. I was looking for anything 2, 3, 4. I didn't want to go to 5
Right,
personally,
right.
but I have a little bit extra money because I've worked hard over the years, et cetera,
Right.
and want to get I like the luxury brands, if
Sure,
you will.
right,
But
absolutely.
I said I'm not going to spend the $80,000
Right,
for a car.
right. And you
I'll
don't
get a
have to.
used luxury car in
Absolutely,
this case.
you could do
or I
it.
get the I was always say I always get the cheapest
Right.
luxury car of the lineup that they have new.
Right,
I had an LS. What is it? No, it was a Lexus the little bitty hybrid C2200,
Yeah, okay,
right?
right.
And it was like $32,000. Which
Absolutely.
you start looking at some of the other new cars that are
Right.
from Malibu, whatever comparable, they're 27. So I was
Exactly.
like $5,000 more to get something that gives me a little more pep and whatever. But then I looked at this like, man, I can get so much more. It seems when you buy a used
Absolutely,
car.
yeah.
If you're willing to take that risk, and I'd say
Right.
then that's where we all go crazy. We go, okay, who in the heck can I trust?
Well, trust, and cars today are built differently. They're built to last longer. When I was a teenager, you know, at 100,000 miles, I was ready to get rid of the car. You're going to replace the exhaust system, the battery, the starter, the alternator, the fuel pump, radiator hoses, the belts. Today, you just don't have that. You know, you get cars that go the whole life of the car without having to change one of those things. But unfortunately, you also have cars that, what's a CVT transmission? And they go out at about 110,000 miles. So that's the flip side of that. I had a 2010 Yukon, I put 2 transmissions in it. And GM, in their infinite wisdom, had the same problem with the 2017 Yukon, so they shortened the warranty period to 60,000 instead of 100,000 miles. And they've got a design flaw in the transmission. Manufacturers are trying to make the cars stay at the same RPM so it's easier on the car. So they create these 8 and 10 speed transmissions. Well, they can't get the fluid through them. So there's certain parts that burn out in them, and they go bad. You know.
How many people do you know that know this much about cars?
Yeah.
And now Tom, by virtue of having my conversation with him for a little while, I'm like, you've been doing this for 30, 35 years.
Right. Well, yeah. That's
what you would think.
Yeah.
And what I found is you're really more of a automotive connoisseur all of your life.
yeah.
But then decided to actually buy an auto dealership.
Correct.
2021.
Right. Yeah.
Right in the middle of one of the most exciting
COVID.
parts of our
Right.
world.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I went to Rankin Technical School out of high school, became a service technician for 10 years, and then moved on. But worked at a Plaza Motors, Porsche Auto Mechanic, which was a lot of fun. Great company. But so I've got a little bit of a different perspective, and hopefully that makes people feel more comfortable with me because I can talk nuts and bolts. I'm just not. I don't come out in my shiny shoes and my dazzling smile. I'm going to sell you whatever I think I can sell you. You know, I want you to buy the car. I don't want to sell you the car. I want you to buy the car. That's a big difference.
Yes. So with that, we get so. I knew it was going to be one of my favorite conversations because I love cars. I mean, I still have a 1989 Toyota Supra.
Nice.
In a safe garage.
Yeah.
And it just, I tried starting it not too long ago, it wouldn't start. So there's something there,
Right.
but I want to get it all fixed up. That was my childhood car.
That's
It was fun.
a car that's very valuable.
It's a classic by now.
Yep.
But anyway, we do need to give a shout out to our sponsors of the show. So Carroll House Furniture. If you know Brooke is a little bit into cars too, and he's a great guy. And Amy, thank them for their support here. But because you like nice things, and we say in your little castle, thank you.
Absolutely.
But if you are looking for furniture, I have purchased. I went to Lutheran South. Tom is actually coach there at Lutheran South. We found out. But yeah, usually my English, generally my English is proper. My mom's an English teacher.
We talked each other out already for
Right.
2.5 hours.
Right. But I bought a car. The Supra I bought, I guess it was back in 1993. It was used.
Yeah.
And put 2 engines in it.
Really?
There's another used car story for you.
Wow.
And the second one I put in was refurbished. The first one was just pulled out of one car and put in this one.
And it's kind of rolling the dice.
Yeah, and then it blew it as well. And then the second was refinished and remanufactured.
Reworked, right.
Yeah, and so then that one's still in there, and it's worked great. 120,000 miles on it now altogether.
Yep.
But this little thing we have to do is a matter of finding some means of transportation. That's where I wanted to talk to you about this because let's go back here. I want to stay on my. I've got things outlined. I'm trying to be very disciplined with what we talk about.
Right.
But what got you into owning? I mean, obviously the background you have is tremendous. But what got you into being an auto car dealer owner?
Well, I needed to find something to do. I was fortunate enough that I could be a stay-at-home father. And once my girls were old enough, I have adult ADD. Seems to be popular. Well, I had it before it was popular. Leaving me alone all day to do something is not a good fit for me. I need to have something to do. I went with a friend of mine to buy a used car at a car lot, and in my great arrogance, I looked at these guys and I thought, man, if they can do it, I can do it. And as has been the case my whole life, I don't look at the details until I have to. And so there's always more to it than you think there is. But I enjoy the interaction. I need to be involved. I need to engage people, and this is a great opportunity to do that, you know. And I like helping people, you know, and I want people to have a good experience. You know, what really is different between me and most other guys, whatever I buy, I'm going to make sure it works right before I sell it. And whether that's a $5,000 vehicle or a $10,000 vehicle or a $20,000 vehicle, it's just something I believe in. And because transportation can really throw you for a loop. If you don't have a lot of money and you buy something for $6,000 and it's junk, well, now you still don't have transportation. Now you got to find a way to get to work. And for a lot of people, that becomes a real issue. So what I try to do is put people in a position that they could spend $5,000 or $10,000 and get at least 12 months out of a car before they've got to do anything to it.
Well, and to me, that is a business strategy.
It
right?
is, absolutely.
So we all have different methods to get the revenue generated so that we can put food on the table.
Yeah.
But so often, we talk about this fairly often on our show from different perspectives, but that is, if you do the job right the first time, generally things are going to, from that point forward, are going to go better for you.
Right.
And what you're doing in this case is when you're doing the job for somebody here, it's not building a deck or a new roof. It's getting them a car that they have to have that they can go to work with.
Correct.
Right? They have to show up at the job on time.
And they've got kids in the car. I mean, you know, you've got a lot of things to look at, and there's a lot of responsibility there, believe it or not. You know, I don't think we think about it in those terms much, but it's the truth.
Absolutely. So that's where I get into. This is, take note, 2.5 hours we talked before the show started. I didn't explain to Tom what the pencil is here, but this is for people to take note. And hopefully you notice this pencil. If I had a regular little pencil, you'd take note, you'd be like, what's he writing his own notes? No, this is for you guys, hopefully, to understand. I think this is something, holy cow, that was important. I didn't realize.
Right.
Take note of that one right there, everybody. And that is, when we talk about it, so you're taking a more costly method up front to say, I'm going to spend the time to make sure these cars do function, versus what we know is all out there. This is what we fear, right? Used car, the guy who traded it in knew it had a problem, obviously didn't want to disclose that.
Correct.
The guy who bought it from him was like, I don't care, I'm getting it for this kind of price, I can turn around and sell it for this kind of price. It drove on the way in here.
Right, absolutely.
Let's turn around and sell this thing. Versus, like I said, what you're doing, you're saying, hey, that's cool, but we're going to analyze this even further. Sometimes you might have to make a decision without understanding what's really happened to that car.
Yeah, and if I decide not to fix something, I tell people that it's not fixed or that it has a deficiency. And I've had to do that because I had to sell a car that I put 2 transmissions in, and the second one I put in was not good. I didn't know for sure if it was or not because there was an issue. It was a Subaru. Nothing against Subarus, I like them, but this particular Crosstrek had an issue. And it's a funny story because, I mean, I lost a lot of money on it, but I sold it to a woman that came in from Germany with 2 gentlemen. One was Austrian, the other one was German. I explained, I was full disclosure on the vehicle, and they looked at me and said, well, we're going to drive to California. I said, I don't even know if it's going to get down the street because of some deficiencies in our.
And you told them this.
I told them. Never heard from them again, so I don't know if they got stuck in Colorado or if they made it out to California. They ended up with the greatest deal in the world. I don't know. But those things happen sometimes. But for the most part, I mean, I'd say, you know, I compromise my margins sometimes, but I have the satisfaction of knowing that the person's going to leave with a good car. It's going to be dependable. It's going to be reliable. It's going to start in the morning when it's 5 degrees out, when they're taking their kid to school or going to North County for a volleyball game. They're going to get there.
And that's what I'm talking about. You're playing the long game. You want this for the
Absolutely.
long term.
Yes.
You don't want a business that
Yeah.
you can just run for a year or two.
Right.
You want this thing to be something you do for many, many
Absolutely.
years.
Yep.
And it's ultimately, you and Tom and I are both a little bit older in our careers, right?
Yes.
We might sell this business to somebody, but we want to have
I'd
something
hope
to
so.
sell
Right.
somebody,
Absolutely.
right? Down the road potentially. But you don't make the long method unless you do things correctly.
You have to. And
all right, and do take care of. So when you're spending extra money up front, that's going to, well, we call it integrity, I think, is one of the
yeah,
and that is to do what's right even when other people aren't looking.
right.
And what sounds like you're doing. But now you're going to develop that reputation where, long term, and you already have. Obviously, we'll show you some of the reviews and some of the stuff Tom's got going. Then now that people say, the car industry can be crazy. And you can gamble all kinds of ways with how you're going to save money or lose money.
Yep.
But Tom will make sure and take care of you. And that's what I feel confident saying based on our discussion and what I can see.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do. And I live up to it. I don't, if I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I had a car, Nissan Altima, I had sold. It had a starting problem. And I thought I had it fixed. Guy calls me, gets home. I mean, he leaves at 7. At 8:15, I get a phone call. It's doing it again. I'm like, great, bring it back. I took it to the Nissan dealer because the shop that had worked on it, I'd lost confidence that they could figure this out.
All right.
So $1,000 later, I got it fixed. It killed me. I didn't make a dime on the car, and I hope the guy sees this and understands that, and ends up coming back and buying another vehicle. But again, it's part of the issue of doing it's how
Well, it's a relief for
business.
me to now say that there's somebody that I say I know that I say, hey, I know Tom.
Yeah.
You can talk to him.
Yeah.
I would say I don't do any specific, and there's reasons for this with regard to how you do productions and stuff, but you can't specifically endorse. But then there's a whole different legal thing you got to go through. But I can say with confidence that I say, look at what we're talking about here. See what we've learned and understand. Tom is disclosing stuff that obviously is true, is giving real examples, and will be something to make the consumer feel more at ease. Because you said, and I'm jumping ahead here, but what's our number one? What's your number one hurdle, obstacle to overcome?
Trust.
It's trust.
It's trust, and having a product they want. But it's trust. People have to trust you to do business with you. They're not, unless they trust you, they think you care. They're not really that interested. Same philosophy in coaching. Kids aren't going to know. Their kids aren't going to care what you know. They're not. They don't care what you know until they know you care.
People I love that one. Yeah, that's one of my. Tom and I, we got lots of quotes.
Right,
that's another one of my favorite. I've heard that one. I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care.
Right, exactly. That's the truth. That's timeless.
Yeah, and that's the element there. And I think that's why we do these long format interviews, so that you can get to know somebody and see the passion, what it is that drives them, what it is that causes them to wake up in the morning. Tom has some great videos here too. That have been beautiful work done here, showcasing what they're about. Really, what Tom's doing here for our little planet. So we're gonna share with you guys. Check out these videos. Very cool stuff. Aha! There you go. Now we're talking about these guys do good work. Check out their stuff there. And I got some more for you. Tom, we're gonna play the other one. I'm doing it now. I'm playing it right now. That's a great. Your other video is dynamite too. So here, let's play that one for everybody too. Here we go. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. High quality, great representation there, Tom. Doing what you do to share what you do with the community. Good stuff, man. Keep it up. With that, tell me, what is it that you feel really separates you? What sets you apart from the others? And you would say, we talked about it there.
Right.
Give me kind of a summary.
Terminology before, but a lot of guys buy junk and they sell junk.
Yeah.
I've seen guys, they don't even get in the car to test drive to see what's wrong with it. They just put it on the lot. Wow. And I won't do that. I really, each one of these is like a baby to me. And I drive them for a couple days. I work on them. I get them fixed. And then I drive them again for a few days. I put up to 1,000 miles on a car. But then I know that the car is good. And I can sell with some confidence. And it's worked out pretty well so far. And I get a lot of compliments. And And I appreciate that, but I mean, I really try to do it for the right reason. And, everybody seems to have an angle today or a manipulation, and I don't. I just keep it simple, stupid, the KISS method.
Love that. There's another one. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Because the more complicated, they talk about it, it is so much easier. Here's another one for you. I like that one. It's much easier in life to tell the truth, because then when you lie, you don't have to remember what you lied about.
Exactly.
Right?
If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember the story.
They remember the whole story, right?
Yep.
And so that gets very hard to. And then I got to tell them that this happened and that didn't happen, and somebody can't camaraderie.
Yeah. Somebody will come and say, "Well, tell them this." I'm like, "Well, how about just telling them the truth?" It's a novel idea these days.
Back to this is what will make life easier and better for everyone,
Absolutely.
And add to the longevity.
And I'm getting too old to remember the stories.
That's right. All right. This is another show where I say I'm going to double my knowledge with regard to how you get into this whole industry. A lot of you have to deal with this. It's something we have to do.
And actually, it's pretty regulated, and you can get your license revoked pretty quickly if you do the wrong thing. But you have to go through a series of classes. You have to have your license. You have to get your license. To get your license, you have to have a physical building with your name on it, with your hours on it. They're very specific about these things, and the hours that you're open. And then before they actually will issue your license, you have to have a member of law enforcement come check everything out, confirm, verify, and then they sign off on your paperwork and you get your license.
So there's a little bit to that. That makes us feel a little bit better about this. And so, yes, there are likely some of the
yeah, and there's
my dad would say fly by night. You
Right.
go fly night by night in every world, every industry. But a car dealer there might be a few of those out there, but they have their day will come. It sounds like you even have run into a few of the guys that you were working with, and then all of a sudden, hey, wait a minute.
Right,
but,
and buying cars at auction, that's where I get my cars. So these cars are on the secondary market. They've come from dealers. Typically, used to be anyway, that a new car dealer wouldn't keep anything on his lot that was maybe over a year or two old. Everything else would go to auction. Well, now these new car dealers are keeping cars that are 5, 6, 7 years old because they couldn't get inventory during COVID.
Right.
And they realize that there's money to be made even at that age. So they're still into our pants, our pockets, basically. So it's made it more difficult to buy good used cars. So it's even more important to make sure that to go through the car and make sure it's a good car. And there's scoundrels out there. I've bought a couple cars from auction, got a car back, subframe was rusted in two. I couldn't do anything with it. I sold it as junk. It killed me. It cost me about $1,500, but I certainly wasn't going to turn around and sell it to somebody and let them die when the car breaks or the whole subframe comes out from underneath it.
That was something that couldn't be detected with whatever.
It should. I could detect. Well, I bought it online, so I didn't. I wasn't actually physically there, and so the auctions do put things in place so that doesn't happen, but it still does. The seller at the auction is supposed to confirm and verify that it's a viable vehicle, but that doesn't happen. And I spent a lot of time arguing with the people at Mannheim and some of the other auction houses, but you live and learn. You come with your boots on and strap it up because there's no prisoners here.
Right.
It's
Take
just,
no prisoners.
You're a big boy, figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, that's why I had some hesitation buying a used car because it goes with the territory.
Right.
And then I had a friend who I talked about him separately in another show, but so I won't say his name. But he said, I've got my dealer license and I've got a location that we use for that and et cetera. And I can help you by going up to the auction. I said, well, I've done my research with regard to this, and after studying on it, I'm looking in for the automated driving cars, right? I'm big about, because I'm always busy. So if I can have a car that will keep me from getting distracted, then, or help me at least. And these cars now, and I got to where the Tesla at that time didn't have the full automatic driving,
right?
Full, whatever they call it now, but something, but FSD something. But anyway, so the Blue Cruise had come about now through Ford, and so I have a Lincoln Nautilus, and I said the Lincoln Nautilus are new, I could do that. It's going to be the upper end of my budget, but I could, and I actually went and test drove one, and the guys looked me up and figured out who I was, and I'll put the hat on now because we talk about the cowboy a little bit, but I showed up and they had a red Lincoln Nautilus. And it looked beautiful. It looked red, you know, how many guys are going to buy red? Well, a cowboy
Right.
might buy red, but
Absolutely.
And I test drove it, and I just as a cost analysis, when I was digging into the numbers, I was like, that's going to be, you know, they just say here it is, and this is what your payment's going to be,
right.
and I'm like, that's $300 more than when I can get a car that was 2 years older.
Yep.
And there was also some other advances in the technology. I don't want to get into crazy stuff, but they read your eyes versus the steering wheel,
Right.
and how you can manage that. And so when it came down to it, I was like, man, I'll take $300 extra in my pocket every month.
Right. And here's the other thing too: is it's new technology, so it's in its infancy, and it's going to be outdated pretty quick probably, because the advances are coming so fast. Which again then makes it even maybe less desirable to sell in the secondary market, and we don't know how good, how well these systems are going to work, and how dependable they're going to be when a car's older. You know, that's the other side of this. With all the electronics, you could get it. You could spend a decent chunk of money. I mean, so 15 years ago, cars had maybe 2 or 3 electronic control modules on them. Today, there's like 30. So it's a lot more sophisticated. There's a lot more plug and play, and it's created a market that didn't exist before, and that's companies that will take these ECUs and rebuild them and put them back on the market and sell them, because otherwise you'd spend $1,000 for one of these things where you could spend a couple $100 to get the same thing, you know.
Well, I think we are going to end up doing what I thought we might. We've gone to a 1.5 hour format, but we can at times, and we'll make this all work with you. We're going to finish up here because we're 25 minutes in.
Okay.
I got a couple more minutes
Sure.
to finish up here, but there's so much more I want to talk about with this. So if you're cool with that, we'll at least do a few more minutes, and we can edit and whatever we have to do.
Absolutely.
Necessary. But let me jump over to the wall behind us. If you look up on the wall, as everyone can see up there, there is the big TV wall on our far side over there, and I've got a way to put that on the wall so you can see it now. And the reason I'm sharing that with you, we have a snapshot here of some of the reviews for Tom. And not a ton of reviews he's had out there already, but he's got all highlight. And this is what you tell us a little story that went along with this. And I can read these, but I want you to tell your story a little bit to help us understand.
Well,
This has already helped you in a way.
right. Yeah, I had a couple come in from Florissant, drove all the way from Florissant. Well, they were in Fenton for a doctor's appointment. But the woman, the mom said, we're here because of your Google reviews. And that made me really, really happy. They were buying a car. It was going to be their granddaughter's car. She was buying it, but they were out looking for her. And the dad said, yeah, I wouldn't have thought to come to a lot like this. I'm like, well, what do you mean a lot like what? But a small lot, you know, don't have a huge inventory, but made a new friend. You know, real nice people, you know, from Florissant. He was a commercial plumber. They met in high school, you know, high school sweethearts. Just real salt of the earth, everyday people, you know, and it made me feel good. And they bought a Lexus from me for their granddaughter. Really nice car. Anytime you can get to a Lexus for $5,000, you're doing well for the most part. And anybody that buys from me, I want to make sure the car's right. And you know, I tell people, you've got a friend in the car business. That's my tagline, because I am. I'm your friend. You're part of the family once you buy from me.
Well, you might
you
need to
be
edit
part of
your
that
title
family.
there. I made that one earlier. How to choose the right car. I found that on your website.
Oh, that's fine too.
But that's a good one too.
Yeah.
Tom's doing it right, and he's making a very good platform for himself to allow
Absolutely.
to put together
Yeah.
to best serve those who need a car. And,
Yes.
and it's going to be. I've made the argument that someday, not too long from now, but probably a couple decades, where cars will just be all automated and fly all over the place,
Yeah,
literally,
right.
and you'll just rent them for the short period of time.
Yeah, it could
but
be.
that's going to be 10, 15,
Hopefully
20 years.
I'll be retired by then, playing golf
And,
someplace.
And that may be the case. But until then, we still have to get the job done. We have to get to where we're going.
And you know, people, not everybody can afford a $50,000, $60,000 automobile, you know, or they want something. Yeah, I mean, you can buy a $20,000 car, and it's not really probably what you want. It's not going to have the amenities you want. But if you want a newer car, that's the deal. But if you want to buy something a few years old, that's nicer. It has some amenities to it. It's a bigger car, rides nice, whatever. That's how you do it, you know. Cars, I forgot, a car used to cost like 12% of your annual income. That's up to like 40% now.
Wow.
That's a big jump. It's a big jump.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just ran over on this one, so I'm gonna do some editing on this one to make it fit. But I never miss that, but I get caught in the discussion here because Tom has literally helped me, in a place that is so important for us all to understand and to. Well, we're all going to deal with this, it seems. And if we don't, very few people. I guess there's a percentage do the automated.
So Randy's another one. He just bought the Equinox from me. Put new tires on it for him. Didn't have floor mats, so I purchased the floor mats and have come back in and pick them up. I mean, people can tell you they're going to do that, but a lot of guys don't. And they think you're going to forget about it. And they just kind of blow it off.
Oh yeah,
I'll get those for you. And then they don't come. Yeah, all right, to replace them, blah, whatever. They're just going to run you out. So.
Well, Tom is here to run the business the correct way, and we appreciate that. He's getting calls here as we finish up this first show. Don't worry, and we'll be back. Stay tuned because we're going to go over quite a bit more here. Great information for you as a potential car consumer. If you're not already, get here and talk to Tom. Thanks, everybody.